Welcome to R&R Showtime with Robert
and Ryan.
And today we'll be discussing Bojack Horseman Season 2, which I just finished.
Yep, Season 2 of Bojack Horseman, the best show on Netflix. I'm putting it out there.
Best show on Netflix is, I don't know. That remains to be seen whether I can even remotely agree with that. The fact that you said just on Netflix makes it be like, all right, this seems like an achievable goal, right? So,
yeah, if you can tell me a better one, maybe I haven't seen it, but I've seen a few.
Yeah. So, well, I guess I'll start with my impression of the second season here, because it's really me watching it. Ryan's already watched it multiple times. So that first season was kind of like, whatever, barely paid attention, kind of just got myself through it. This one, I think because the first season did set everything up, and I do know who these characters are now, there's a little bit of investment. The second season was more engaging, a little more entertaining. I got used to some of the things that made me like cringe in the first one, and so I was able to receive more of what I was watching a little better. So overall, did like this one better. I think that's natural that I would, but still not necessarily hooked. Not there, And Ryan has said to me, not here on the podcast before, that it is a show that really, really gets to you in like the third season, I guess.
It picks up in the third season. I think I remember ending the third season. And I was like, wow, that was just a great season of television. And I hope that I'm not setting it up too much, but my recollection of watching the show from season 1 and season 2 going into season 3 was that, wow, this is I just think that the season finale of season 3 sort of hooks everything together so well. And it's one of the more impactful moments of the season occurs in this season. It's almost like the inciting incident to a lot to come going forward. And a lot of things that have been set up are finally taking form. These first 2 seasons are set up to the plot of the show in a way. Not entirely, but if you watch these first 2 seasons versus the later seasons, it's just a different show in a lot of ways. But we'll get there. So
interesting. Yeah. So I guess let's get into kind of our recaps, and I'll start telling you about what I thought, at least.
So I think this time I'm going to be a lot more brief in talking about a basic synopsis of each episode, and then we're just going to go into talking about the season as a whole, what happens to the characters and what their stories are for the seasons. But we'll first just go sort of episode by episode. Episode 1, Brand New Couch. After listening to a motivational tape, Bojack comes to believe that an upbeat attitude will lead to a better life, but his new outlook hurts his performance on the set of the Secretariat movie. Meanwhile, Mr. Peanut Butter wears a dog cone on his neck to keep him from biting the stitches off his hand after he drunkenly punched a mirror, thinking there was a dog on the other side.
So I remember, this season being kind of based around, for the most part, the Secretariat movie, is one thing I did like about the season more overall, is that it had this little more, I don't know, it felt like purpose.
Yeah. If you think that the first season is about the book being written, but that's kind of a passive action being done by Diane. Mm-hmm. This time Bojack is doing the Secretariat movie.
Yeah. And because of that, because it's something that the season sort of wraps around, I think that gives it, it made it a little more interesting to watch. I was following some kind of storyline. The fact that there was a book being written in the first one, yeah, like you said, it was just there is at the end, the book becomes significant, and then we're like, okay, the book was important and not just a thing that was happening. But yeah, the movie does bring this together and makes it more. And I like the little cameos with John Krasinski as Secretariat, and we see a lot more of that. I don't know when exactly all of them come in, but I keep seeing those, and this is where I'm really starting to get more depth on Bojack. We're seeing more of his parents.
Yes. And it's worth mentioning that later seasons sort of follow this same something is happening the whole season. So you can sort of instantly remember each season by what Bojack has going on. Like it's not a spoiler to say that at the end of this season, Bojack is set up to basically be pushing the release of the movie and basically start a potential Oscar campaign. And so that's sort of the inciting thing of the next season, trying to make sure that the release of his movie is well received and that and that sort of, and so this season sort of sets up the, like, it's the first time you really get him doing something all season.
Yeah. And so this first episode specifically though, I do the the sort of joke and the sort of like what they're trying to I think, what did you say before? Like the show's kind of about like not what it is about, but the sort of themes and the things are like making fun of Hollywood culture.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very amusing because I'm kind of like into self-help books and like positive mindset and all those kind of things. So watching this episode be a riff on the positive mindset and manifesting or whatever, and how that because basically what it was is that Bojack was being non-genuine. Like he was acting some way that was like a more positive way, like quotation works, but not like really who he is and not where his ability to actually like be good at the Secretariat comes from.
Yeah.
So I liked how they kind of turned that on their head. And I that was not lost on me, especially because that's something I'm sort of into myself.
I feel like, and I'm reading it as a Wikipedia like synopsis on the season. I feel like this episode synopsis probably doesn't capture everything that goes on very well. But yeah, this episode sort of sets up that he's doing the Secretariat thing this season.
Yeah.
Episode 2, Yesterday Land. Bojack meets a female owl named Wanda Pierce. Here's a sink into the season as well, who just woke up after having been in a coma for 30 years, but almost sabotages his relationship with her when he discovers that another 30-year coma victim named Alex is actually a KGB operative. Todd opens his own version of Disneyland, which he built with the help of some worker bees, and almost ruins his relationship with Mr. Peanut Butter, who had just gotten his dog cone off when it comes to a lawsuit from the Walt Disney Company.
Yeah, so some comments about this one. Him making his own Disneyland that is just literally a giant dumpster fire is kind of amusing, but what's the most amusing thing is him winning the lawsuit because Disneyland was written slightly different.
There's like 2 eyes in Disneyland.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, "Are you sure it's not spelled wrong?" Like, I was just like, "Oh my god!" I think
we would know if he's right.
Yeah, that one's just so like, I don't know. It's so dumb, but it was pretty funny.
And I love this dumb humor.
And so yeah, and I like this the whole like owl that came out of a coma kind of thing. It is an interesting play on his insecurities that he would be like, wow, or not his insecurities, but that how Bojack feels about the perception he has of so many people, and finding a person that literally doesn't know anything about him so that they can, in some ways, maybe see him without that lens.
Yeah.
It's interesting to have a character like that. And it's so on the nose. Literally, she's been like in a coma for 30 years.
I think one of the highlights of this season in general is having Wanda as a character. I really liked her. Voiced by Lisa Kudrow, who Lisa Kudrow, I think, she's not in a ton of things, but like generally speaking, I like things that she's in, most notably as Phoebe from Friends.
Lisa. Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha. What is she also in that she's like a voice actor on that is notable? Because you were saying Lisa Kudrow, and I recognize the name, but I did not point her out when I heard her voice as Owl Lady.
I'm trying to see if there's anything of like major note.
I feel like there's some other animated something that I've seen like her name on, where I was like, oh, I recognize that name, but I cannot put my, I'm not sure who that is.
Yeah, well, I am making the quick attempt, and I'm not seeing anything of note. But she's a notable person. You've seen her. You've probably heard her voice, seen her around places and different things. But yeah, so this is her introduction to the season, and I just think I like her as a character, and I like the relationship she has with Bojack.
Yeah, I do like kind of where it ends, because I wanted to mention it, but I wanted to get more towards the episode where they end up breaking up. Because
she says one of the great lines of the season. when they do end up breaking up.
Yeah. And one of the many moments that makes me like Bojack is when he's the only guy in the room that seems to have like any sense, and everybody is like being I'm trying to think like what it's supposed to be. Like it's like everybody is just like doing what they think is correct, but like nobody's listening to the only guy that's like a voice of reason. And it's when they're in the room and he's like, this guy's a KGB agent. Like he calls him out for being a literal KGB agent that's still like trying to like bring down America, and the guy admits it and is like, but why are you mad at me for that? Blah. And then everybody's like, wow, Bojack, what a jerk. Like, and I'm just like, what the? He's literally admitting he wants America's downfall. Like he just says it to the room, but like says it, but he's like, why are you blah 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 blah? And everybody's just like, yeah, Bojack, what a jerk. That's not cool. And is it Wanda? Yeah, Owl Lady.
Yeah, Wanda.
Wanda's like, Bojack, why are you being so da da da? I told you not to this and that. And it's just like, what? Like this is and it's just like this is where I feel for Bojack being a voice of reason. I'm like, what? I hate everybody. I hate all of you.
All right. Well, random note: Alex, voiced by Joel McHale, notable of being in Community. I'd say he's Jeff Winger in Community, the main guy.
Gotcha.
All right. So, episode 3, Still Broken. Herb Kazaz's cancer has gone into remission, only for him to die from an allergic reaction to a peanut truck during a car crash. So he survives the cancer, survives the car crash, but he crashes into a peanut car and that kills him.
Mm.
His funeral is attended by Bojack, Princess Carolyn, Mr. Peanut Butter, Todd, Sarah Lynn, Bradley Hitler Smith, Joel Clark, Henry Winkler, Jake Gyllenhaal, Maggie Gyllenhaal, and that Pakistani girl that keeps winning Nobel Prizes. Bojack, Sarah Lynn, Bradley, and Joel reunite for a treasure hunt that was left on a disc that was given to them by Herb's blind bat executor. Yeah.
Executor.
And so that's a lot of the episode is him like hanging out with the kids.
Yeah, doing the treasure hunt and like
adult kids.
Flashbacks to horsing around.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Princess Carolyn accidentally finds herself schmoozing with the funeral attendants about how she knew Herb as Mr. Peanut Butter takes advantage of it. And I do remember like he's just like, oh yeah, Princess Carolyn, you knew her really well? Oh yeah, tell me. Where it's one of those things where you can't tell if like Mr. Peanut Butter is being intentional or if he's just like a dog and he's like, oh yeah, tell me more.
Honestly, I mean, maybe you could say you're not sure if he's being intentional, but there was no way that I believed that he wasn't literally just being like, please tell me more, Princess Carolyn. Like I just felt like he was being a dog. He was just like truly like, wow, tell me more about that. I'm so interested to know more. Blah blah. Yeah, and I'm just like, God, yeah. This is why I like Mr. Peanut Butter. He's just a dog guy. Being a dog guy. The most like what would a guy be like if he was a dog? And this is just every time these kind of moments happen, I'm just like, that's it. Yep. That's all I can expect from a guy that's a dog.
Yeah.
And the treasure hunt like reveals a lot of like the flashbacky stuff, which is kind of cool. It's good to see. Like, I mean, it's good, but it's also kind of like it just gives us more color on the relationship with Herb and with the kids and what it like that like Bojack like seems like kind of a degenerate asshole now, but at one time like he was maybe like troubled, but not like, you know, he was like a popular guy he was on a famous TV show in the 90s. Like he was a guy that was well liked and was a likable-ish guy at the time, but again was still troubled and had his own trauma. But at that time it just wasn't that bad. And then it's like through the years or through the fame or whatever, you know, we get that it, you know, developed into what it is now.
Exactly. But yeah, so it's a nice little episode. The last that Herb has been alive. So, but maybe we'll see more of him going forward.
Yeah. Apparently with the urn and stuff. Yeah. There's the whole thing with the urn. Princess Carolyn is supposed to take care of his urn, which literally doesn't get resolved until the end of the season.
Episode 4, After the Party, in a 3-part story of the aftermath of Diane's surprise birthday party. Princess Carolyn gets in a relationship slump with Vincent upon getting suspicious that Bojack might be right about him. Todd's phone operating system falls in love with Princess Carolyn's phone operating system. Bojack and Wanda hit a deer as Wanda heads into the woods to see if he's All right. And Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter get in a huge argument over whether or not Tony Curtis is dead.
Yeah, this episode was just kind of like this one was like I don't see, there was no purpose. It was just kind of like entertainment essentially.
I don't particularly this episode doesn't really stand out in my brain.
Yeah,
I don't really remember it.
Also, this little summary says that Princess Carolyn suspected Vincent, but she didn't suspect like that he was a kid in a trench coat.
No, suspicious that Bojack was right that he's not a good boyfriend. Like all the complaints that she ever heard from Bojack were not about him being 3 kids. It was just, oh, you think that he's not a great guy. Oh, I think you're jealous. So in her mind, she thinks that she's realizing what Bojack was trying to tell her.
Yeah, except that she's not, because he literally sees Vincent with his mom.
Yeah,
and instead thinks that that's
you have
Vincent.
A son.
Yeah, you have a son and a wife. Like, and this is where I'm just like facepalm. Oh God, like kill me with the. It's funny, but it's so like this world exists in a way where people do these things, and it makes me want to punch myself in the face. But almost in a good way now. It's become like more amusing that I feel that way. Like it's good punching myself in the face.
Yeah.
You know how that feels, right?
Yeah. No, I've hit myself on the face.
Yeah. So that episode was whatever. I mean, yeah, it was kind of like almost forgettable. I mean, like them getting in a fight and stuff. Also, I think the fight wasn't really about Tony Curtis being dead. It was that Diana was upset that he threw her a surprise party, which she didn't want. And then it was like, you're not listening to me, basically. Like, Tony Curtis is dead. Like, you're not listening to me. Tony Curtis is dead. Just listen to me for once, kind of thing. And then I think the Bojack and Wanda thing was just more like a bonding between them, or like us showing what they are like in their relationship a little bit. So that was the purpose there.
Yeah.
And the Todd's literally just in a car with some phones.
For those who are curious, Tony Curtis is indeed dead.
I don't even know who Tony Curtis is.
I don't either, but I just checked it. He died in 2010.
Yeah.
But yeah,
was he dead at the time of that publication of that
2015 episode? Is the episode.
Okay, well, if you didn't know who he was, then you wouldn't have known. Like I didn't know. I didn't know. Yeah. For all I knew, it was literally like Schrodinger's Tony Curtis.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's not real.
Yeah, Schrodinger's Tony Curtis. Like he was not only dead but also alive in a superimposition at the same time until you just right now made him be dead.
Yeah.
So.
But hey,
thanks a lot, Ryan.
This episode,
killed Tony Curtis.
But hey, this episode was guest starring Paul McCartney.
Oh yeah, he was literally in a cake. Yeah. And he voiced himself.
Exactly.
At the end of the episode when he got out of the cake.
A lot of the time you see celebrities in this show, they are voicing themselves. Like I think in the previous episode, Henry Winkler voiced himself.
Was Jake Gyllenhaal and Maggie Gyllenhaal voicing themselves?
It does not immediately say. It's entirely possible that it was, but it's also possible that it wasn't.
Is Ethan Hawke the bird that goes cacaw on the Mr. Peanut Butter show in a couple episodes?
Maybe. Sometimes they are. Lance Bass at the end of the season in a very small role as a fish man named Lance Bass is apparently voiced by Lance Bass. So
Jesus Christ.
All right. So episode 5, chickens. This is an episode. And I feel like this is a very unique episode.
Yeah.
Because it really delves into the animal people.
Yeah, the human animal people. This is definitely one where it's like it plays on itself for being a show about human animal people things, and it just really gets weirdly twisted. Like how the cognitive dissonance is hard in this episode.
But it's all I think it's trying to make a point about like farming in general as a practice. It's very much a like we're not. Yeah. So let's see how Wikipedia sums up this episode. Bojack attempts to bond with Kelsey Janning, who is the director of Secretariat. Todd, Diane, and Kelsey's daughter, Irving, help a genetically modified chicken who escaped from a Chicken for Days truck following a car accident to cross the road. They help a chicken cross the road in order to keep her from being made into a food chicken, but get in trouble with the Los Angeles Police Department. And yeah.
They don't even really help her to not be a food chicken. They take her to the slightly more humane food chicken place.
Yeah.
Which I guess is even part of the play on it. And it's clearly that like I guess the chicken does so. What it basically is made clear in the show is that there are 2 kinds of chickens. There are chickens, and those are like basically the people chickens.
Yeah.
And they're the chickens that people eat. And those are literally just chickens that are giving so much drugs that they're just mindless. They're like a regular animal chicken.
Yeah. And it sort of plays on the concept of, oh yes, we're humane to our food chickens. They don't feel pain, and we treat them nicely. And it's like a very much like it is sort of spoofing the real life factory farming and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's kind of like when you see it once, it's hard to like not like get that thought out of your head. Like, yeah.
And like people are basically not like the most offensive thing is not even that they eat them. It's all basically fine. Like it's all normal.
Yeah.
It's nothing about it's even, they're like, she just wants to be free, but they're not like even appalled at the idea that this happens. It's just that he happens to encounter that one and wants to help that one.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess at the end though, Diane is like, release all of them in the thing or whatever. But they like couldn't even tell the difference between them at, like when they walked into the room or into the barn where they were being kept. Mm-hmm. And then again, they take her to not where she's going to live a life, but it's just the more humane one. Like they don't live, they live slightly better lives, but they will die at the end. Yeah. Now, I mean, this is like getting into like this is like a play on the vegan-ish kind of, this makes some commentary here. Factory farming is certainly bad. Like I agree. I definitely don't like that. But I mean, like this is the only reason this is ridiculous is because it's a world where literally chickens are people. Yeah. Not like a creature that like, in any setting would be eaten.
And as dark as this sounds, this is a pretty funny episode too, especially the way they play off of her bagocks and stuff. They hear her like chicken clucks as human words.
Yeah, whatever serves the point at the time.
Yeah, exactly. So it's an episode that sticks with me. Episode 6, Higher Love. Mr. Peanut Butter and Todd's accountant tells them that their dumb business ideas have caused PB Living to go bankrupt. Mr. Peanut Butter's agent, Ronnie Bonito, is found dead from autoerotic asphyxiation. So he gets a job at Lady Foot Locker. Bojack gets awkward when he says, I love you to Wanda. Princess Carolyn gets an opportunity when she discovers a not-so-dead author named J.D. Salinger, who, it turns out, is not dead, but extremely reclusive. The focus on autoerotic asphyxiation in this episode, including 2 deaths, has meant that this is the only episode in the series to be given an 18 certificate by the British Board of Film Classification. Basically, by British standards, only people 18 should watch this episode.
Huh. Fascinating. I guess it is about people choking themselves for sexual pleasure and people literally die from it. So that is perhaps a little mature.
Including Corduroy Jackson.
Who?
The guy that ends up autoerotic asphyxiating himself in the episode. And in a way, that death is kind of in a way not a fault of Bojack's, but brought upon by actions of Bojack. Like it doesn't really talk about it too much, but in a way, it is a death around Bojack.
Oh, he's the guy that literally goes to Bojack and says, hey, please take this stuff and don't let me autoerotic asphyxiate myself anymore. I can't do this because that guy just died.
Yeah. And then Bojack keeps doing the thing with Wanda where, I'm going to autoerotic asphyxiate myself unless you care about me, because he's so insecure about having said, I love you first.
And he needs her to say it back and say, like, he needs her to like reply, like, tell me you love me too, or I'm the guy that said it first. And
I'm gonna kill myself because I'm just too awkward about it.
Yeah, but not actually kill myself. He's just like implying that he might like I could die. This is dangerous. It's a dangerous thing to do. And she's actually just being reasonable and saying like, well, I'm not gonna stop you from doing what you want to do. Like it's a funny little weird thing that's going on.
It's also the first time we get J.D. Salinger, and I can't remember if this is the episode where he first proposes his brilliant idea of a TV show.
Yeah, at the end of this is where at the end of this episode, this is where that is happening.
And he proposes the idea for Hollywood stars and celebrities. What do they know? Do they know things? Let's find out.
Yeah. Oh my God, I can't believe you fucking remember the whole thing. Did you just read it right now?
No,
you actually remember the whole thing. God,
it's just so catchy. It rolls off the tongue.
It is. Yeah, this is just another one of those things with the stupid, one thing that Wanda's been doing in the last couple episodes, because she is a network like manager.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's hilarious that she keeps being like, oh, that thing you're talking about, can we make that into a TV show? Should we hire them? Should we bring them on? And it's all like, again, things she doesn't know because she's from 30 years in the past, basically.
Let's hire this stuff for TV. TV is still the most important thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it is funny, those little commentaries on like,
it's the irony that this is a streaming show, one of the early big streaming shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're like, yeah, TV is still important, right? Look, yeah.
Episode 7, Hank After Dark. Diane finds herself in hot water when, during Princess Carolyn's book promotion of Bojack's autobiography in paperback form, she calls attention to sexual misconduct allegations against a beloved television personality named Hank Hippopopoulos. While Mr. Peanut Butter begins the production of his new game show, the one that J.D. Salinger proposed, Princess Carolyn, as I believe she becomes his agent, her agent, his agent, and she gets him the job on J.D. Salinger's show.
Yep.
Todd switches places with the Prince of the war-torn country, Cordovia.
Yeah, which is where Diane is supposed to be going. Like in this episode.
Yeah, with the leopard guy.
Yeah, she's supposed to be going over there, but she's having like a hesitancy because like something, I forget why. Like, I think part of this episode is that like, yeah, she's like fighting this militant fight against Hippopopoulos.
Yeah. And it starts to cause a rift between her and Mr. Peanut Butter, because like Peanut Butter looks up to Hank, and he's also like starting this new show, and he doesn't want the negative attention of that his wife is being brought with the controversy. And it's like he wants her to be her and speak her mind, but it's starting to hurt him in his career when he's like really needs things to go good for him.
Yeah, this is actually a really great commentary on like sort of the sexual allegation thing in media or in Hollywood culture. How for one reason or the other, like you hear the sexual allegations, like if we talk about like a Bill Cosby kind of thing. Bill Cosby used to be like everybody's dad, kind of like.
This was definitely in a more timely to Bill Cosby thing. Diane is literally playing the Hannibal Buress role of being the person to just make light of the allegations that have been around for years. Yeah. Like they had been around Bill Cosby, but it wasn't until like a comedian just started making sure people were aware of it and said it on a public enough platform that people are like, wait, is that a thing? Why aren't people talking about this?
Yeah. And then the automatic, like this guy must be a beyond reproach sort of thing, right? Like they have to be a good guy. There's no way that could be true. Which one thing, it says sexual allegations. It never in that episode, at least from what I remember, says anything sexual. He just says things he did with those women, and it never specifies. Like anytime someone's about to say what he did, she even says, like Diane, there's multiple like little, it's supposed to be like kind of funny that like where someone's about to say what exactly he did, and then it cuts away, or someone like, talks over or just like, it never actually says what he did. So like, and even in that sense, it sort of leaves it up to us. Like, doesn't matter how little and or how bad it was. The fact that there are allegations, right, means that it's something to be taken seriously
and something that should be addressed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because that's the question. It's like, well, someone would even say here, right? Like I would ask, well, what happened though? What was it? Was it really that bad? It's like, well, but the point's not like whether it was bad or not, right? It's that it could be bad. Like, shouldn't we talk about it? Shouldn't he be held accountable for something that might have happened? Like whether it was small or big. And if it's big, certainly like a bigger deal, but like even if it's small, like you can't just let people get away with things, because they're popular or they're a big deal. But then there's also the secondary question that is also brought up in this episode, that they are allegations and they may not have happened. Like there's no evidence. Also, there's nothing that says that they are for sure true. And he even says like this stuff didn't happen. Like this is all false. And so it's like, are we tearing down a guy's reputation for something that might be conflated and or completely false? Or are we bringing to light something that happened and, I don't know.
Yeah.
This sort of like, has its own like commentary and play on that issue. And I thought it was very nuanced. This is one of those episodes where I was like, like interesting. Like this show's kind of saying some stuff here.
I agree. I appreciate the nuance of this episode. All right. So let's go down to the next episode, episode 8. Let's find out. The taping of the new pilot of Mr. Peanut Butter's new game show with Bojack as its first celebrity guest, competing against Daniel Radcliffe, voiced by Daniel Radcliffe, does not go smoothly. Meanwhile, Todd tries to be mature in order to earn the respect of J.D. Salinger while competing against Mia McKibben. So this is honestly, I'd say that this is one of the better episodes of the show, because it's kind of like a bottle episode in a way, because it's largely entirely focused around the taping of an episode of Hollywood Stars and Celebrities. What do they know? Do they know things? Let's find out.
God.
And you really just see, like, not only does that name of a show sound like a ridiculous conceit for a show, but then you see how the show is structured, and it's just sort of ridiculous all the way through. Like, all of the questions will be randomly like Mr. Peanut Butter focused, like what's Mr. Peanut Butter's favorite food and stuff like that. And then the questions will like vary in difficulty wildly. And it also is made clear at some point that like it's intended for Daniel Radcliffe to do better and to look better from this than Bojack, because he's the more likable celebrity. So people want to see Daniel Radcliffe win. But this causes Bojack to be kind of annoyed to be basically put in this situation to look bad. But it leads to one of the more fascinating confrontations, and maybe really the most direct and aggressive meeting between Mr. Peanut Butter and Bojack for the entire show, where Mr. Peanut Butter finally just sort of confronts Bojack for not only kissing Diane behind his back and not telling him, when Diane told Mr. Peanut Butter, because obviously they're in a relationship, she's going to be honest with the person she's with. And he's finally has to confront doing that shitty thing to a person who saw Bojack as a friend.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of the moments where, like, I mean, Bojack kind of like has always like hated Mr. Peanut Butter, not hate, but like, again, like rivalry or something, you know, like there's an enmity there,
yeah,
for sure. But
it's in like the Homer Simpson, Ned Flanders dynamic, where Mr. Peanut Butter has never been anything but nice and loving to this person. And it's like a jealousy thing, that an insecurity thing that the Homer Bojack character has to deal with. And it's refreshing when the other person confronts them on their bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. When it like truly crosses a line, which, Homer Simpson, Ned Flanders is kind of like, that's like it's a decent metaphor, but you kind of think about it like Ned Flanders basically let Homer do literally anything and never,
Homer killed his wife.
Yeah, exactly. And was basically okay with it up to a point.
Yeah.
So, but, yeah, that was a really interesting conversation. I like how it did basically come out. And that was like one of the times where it's like, Mr. Peanut Butter is clearly a dog, but he's not actually dumb. It's like his nature makes you think like he's stupid, but he's not. He's just like someone that's excited about everything, kind of, and like almost in a naivete, like an innocence. And
he does have a naiveness to him, but he's not like a complete moron.
Yeah, exactly. Like him and Todd can get along because Todd also
has a childlike innocence.
Yeah, they both have childlike innocence, and that's why they get along.
Yeah.
Now Todd is like a man having childlike innocence, and Mr. Peanut Butter is a dog, and that is like his nature.
Yeah.
And so that's why they get along, but it's also just understandable how Mr. Peanut Butter acts. So yeah, I mean, everything you said, I basically agree with. I thought this was like an interesting, nuanced episode, and this is again one of those moments where I'm like I'm like with Bojack here. Like, fuck Daniel Radcliffe. I don't know why I said to myself, fuck Daniel Radcliffe. I actually like Daniel Radcliffe, but fuck Daniel Radcliffe in this episode. I hated Daniel Radcliffe in this episode. I was like, yes, fuck you, Daniel Radcliffe. I hope you lose this fucking show. You annoy me right now. Oh, hey, one thing that I actually forgot to mention or just wanted to touch on is in the last episode, we glossed over the fact that Todd basically got switched out for the fucking dictator of Cordovia. And that was a very hilarious little side thing going on.
I am Todd.
Yeah. I am just here doing the things and blah, blah, blah.
And then we see Todd over in Cordovia, like making radical changes that ends up pissing off the Cordovian prince that makes him switch back.
Literally gives away all of his money to something like, I don't know if it was like orphanage or something dumb, but he like basically gives away his all money, and he reads in like the actual dictator is like reads in the paper. He's like, no, that fool, he's ruining everything.
I think we also glossed over. We sort of touched. I think you touched on the fact that in that episode, Diane's debating on going off to do the Cordovia thing, and I believe by the end of the episode, she does make the decision to go off and do that, because I think during the taping of this episode, Diane has gone off to be with the I can't remember the name of the guy. I
Mr.
believe he's
Leopard guy.
Yeah, I believe he's voiced by Keegan-Michael Key.
I think he'll be in the next. You'll probably see it in the next summary or something like that. But yeah, it's that one thing that I think that the thing with Todd is supposed to be kind of like a small play on like the movies and those instances where it's some kind of like, like celebrity switched with their doppelganger thingy, and
the Prince and the Pauper, or even like in a way like the Parent Trap kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, again, it's being subversive in the sense that it's like
nobody notices.
Yeah, nobody notices, and like what actually happens is when he goes to be a royal, he literally screws up everything for the dictator guy, and the dictator guy's like, why would I do this? It's not like I came over here and learned anything. He's like, he just wants to go back and fix it and take his kingdom back, or not kingdom, his dictatorship.
Yeah. All right, but yeah, so
episode 9,
The Shot. Oh, I remember this episode. Bojack, Kelsey, Todd, Princess Carolyn, Mr. Peanut Butter, and character actress Margot Martindale, who was just released from prison. Character actress Margot Martindale, who I always think of from Dexter.
I always think of her from Justified, which is what they say in that episode. That is the what the cops say when they meet her in the episode. They're like, I loved you in Justified. but nobody ever knows my name. Like, and she like name calls a few actors in that episode too, who I'm like, I bet I know who those are, but not by their names.
And you know what? Something I'll say about this show, I know Margot Martindale's name now, and you know what? She's really good in Dexter, and I bet she's probably really good in Justified.
She is great in Justified, yeah, and she's in other things too. Like, she's definitely like a prominent, character in what she's in, but I definitely never knew her name. She was not anybody who. It's so funny how on point it is that they know that she isn't that actress to most people. Like,
yeah, I just like, because like the first time you see her, it works. The second time you see her, it's like, okay, all right, okay. So I appreciate her whenever she shows up. But they all get together to attempt to shoot a controversial scene in the Secretariat movie that was not in the script, in which Richard Nixon agrees not to send Secretariat over to help in the Vietnam War. Princess Carolyn contemplates her career as Rutabaga Rabinowitz plans to secede from Vigor, their agent company, which these episode synopsises in general kind of gloss over a lot of what Princess Carolyn's doing. We see her like working at Vigor a lot.
This episode also has Princess Carolyn at one point being transported into a portrait, some like where she's envisioning some life where she doesn't work at Vigor and like live some kind of like nice life in the country or something, and has like one of the other agents, I think, at her agency, like literally being her servant.
Vanessa Gekko.
Yeah.
Who the first, I believe she's first comes up in season 1, where she's like that slimy, slithery, reptilian Vanessa Gekko, and it sets it up for you to think that this is like a lizard lady, and it's a human lady. But Vanessa Gekko and Rutabaga Rabinowitz are coworkers, working under. So I just want to sort of like name drop some of the voice actors there, because Rutabaga Rabinowitz is Ben Schwartz. You may know him as John Ralphio in Parks and Recreation, or as the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog.
John Ralphio.
Yep. Vanessa Gekko is voiced by Kristen Chenoweth, who is like a famous Broadway lady. She was in Wicked. She was in Glee.
She was in Glee?
As a bit role. She's like the lady that Schuster had like a crush on in high school, that comes and like joins the Glee Club for like an episode or two. It's like this older blonde lady.
I think I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, but so she's like a Broadway lady. The Mr. Witherspoon, the sort of manager of Vigor, is voiced by Stephen Colbert, and Charlie Witherspoon, the sort of like awkward voiced frog guy that you see, is voiced by Raphael Bob Waxberg, the writer and creator of BoJack Horseman.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
I wonder if that means something that he would give himself that role.
I just think it's like a little funny, like quirky role. But so her and Rutabaga are having this thing where they're gonna start their own company basically. And Rutabaga is basically cheating on his wife, who he's having marital issues with Princess Carolyn, saying, "Hey, Princess Carolyn, I'm going to divorce my wife. We're going to be together." And this is very appealing to Princess Carolyn. Mm-hmm. And in Cordovia, Diane contemplates following Sebastian St. Clair. So yeah, we got his name.
Sebastian St. Clair. A prominent businessman turned, who literally decided he would go help children because he couldn't help hearing their screams at night.
Yep.
Yeah. So this episode, interesting thing about Princess Carolyn, because I don't really rank her as a character I like a lot, but in this episode, you do get a little bit, like, not only do you see her talking with Rutabaga, but in the little portrait, the portrait thing is where you see her being like, oh, what if I could just have this simple life here? And Vanessa Gekko basically literally is like, maybe like at some point after she's like contemplating, she's like, I don't know, why can't I be happy? Well, Vanessa Gekko just says, it's like, maybe you're not happy with this peaceful stuff. Like, you want to be working. This is what you want. That's why you don't have that life, is because it's not what you want. And I think that just makes a good point of a lot of things about people. It's like, sometimes people, like, it's the grass is only greener on the other side kind of conundrum, where people think, oh man, I wish I wasn't doing this so much and I could have this kind of life. But the point is like, but this is the life you're living. This is the life you probably do want, because it's what you are making. It's what you're doing.
Exactly.
And just realizing that can give you an appreciation and make you just, stop being so hesitant, or just really enjoying the life that you are living.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's an interesting little bit of like, I got that from that interaction with Princess Carolyn there.
Yeah. But, and then we also get the sort of the main thrust of the episode of them trying to get this impactful, meaningful shot for the movie that Bojack really cared about, and that Kelsey thought was a good part of the movie, that the producers kept saying, no, we're not putting it in the movie, it's too controversial, and they get the shot. And Bojack and Kelsey really put herself on the line doing this for Bojack and doing this, and she felt good about it. And then she gets fired from the movie. Yeah, they can't fire Bojack because he's the star of the movie, mm-hmm. but they can replace the director.
Yeah, which kind of sucked.
Yeah,
because it's just a fun, again, Hollywood culture thing where it's like, you're literally like, yeah, they're going for the shot that like everybody should see, and this is a big deal and stuff. But then it was like, yeah, but F you, this isn't about what you want, director. This is about what movie we're trying to make as, like the team, which is kind of like, I feel like the only reason they could, if you look at it like this, like, you couldn't fire Steven Spielberg from some movie he's making, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's too big a deal. There's no way you're getting him off his movie unless he wants to be off of it. Or, I mean, there's like a few, names you can probably think of like big time directors that are like, you're not firing them from their movies. But when you have like a smaller director that has like a vision, or maybe like I could see how like if, they might have a vision, but it's like, we don't really want to give you full control. We actually want you to make this movie. We just wanted you to make this movie. And it's where it's like, well, no, I'm trying to go this different direction. It's like, well, hey, get out of here.
And I think around this time, there were like kind of somewhat notable examples like Edgar Wright in the making of Ant-Man. And after this movie, we got the situation with...
Is it... Which one is it? I forget his name. Is it Guns?
Oh, James Gunn?
Is it James Gunn? Or... the guy that directed Guardians of the Galaxy got fired because of his Twitter thing?
Yeah, that's not what I was going for. I was going to say how in the in Solo, a Star Wars story, it was originally being created by I can't remember their names right now, but it's the team that it's a pair of guys that directed like 21 Jump Street and were part of the producers for Enter the Spider-Verse. They were working on Solo originally, but it wasn't going how Disney wanted, and so they replaced them with Ron Howard, because Ron Howard was a safer director choice. Though that actually happened after this. Okay. And I feel, so maybe Edgar Wright being replaced on Ant-Man is a better example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I didn't realize that there was a director change on Ant-Man.
Yeah. Edgar Wright, who you may be familiar with for the Cornetto trilogy or Scott Pilgrim or Baby Driver.
Okay. Those are all pretty decent flicks. It'd be interesting to see what his spin would have been on Ant-Man, I guess, but whatever.
Yeah,
I still think Ant-Man was good. I like it.
But they wanted him to make the Ant-Man movie that we got, and he maybe wanted it to be more of his vision of a film.
Yeah. So we get that. Those are all interesting things going on in the episode. And just a lovely whole thing from Margot Martindale, who just makes a whole point about, character actors that don't get enough like recognition for literally who they are. Just they do great jobs, but nobody knows who they are.
Yeah, until they get like a starring role.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And just a little thing not to be glossed over is the guy who certainly thinks that he's the son of Nixon, whether he is or not. That's never necessarily confirmed, but the security guard who works at the Nixon Museum and is like, the son that you never had, and blah, blah, like this, which is just a random funny thing going on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
episode 10, Yes and. Diane crashes at Bojack's place after quitting her job working for Sebastian St. Clair. This puts a strain on Bojack and Wanda's relationship, with Wanda thinking that Diane is a bad influence on Bojack. Following Kelsey's firing, she is replaced by another director named Abe, who does various reshoots for the film. Todd joins an improv comedy troupe led by Copernicus, which turns out to be a cult. Copernicus, voiced by Liev Schreiber, for those who care. Princess Carolyn and Rutabaga Rabinowitz continue their plans of secession from Vigor. And so this is, and I believe this is the episode where we get Bojack breaking up with Wanda.
Yes,
and
we do.
We get that great quote. I don't know if it's the one that, if you remember what she says, but it's one that sticks with me. And it's,
I do not.
When you see everything with rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like flags.
That was actually a really great quote. I remember thinking that and be like, wow, I do remember hearing it and thinking like, it was actually so simple that I almost didn't, it kind of like went over my head how profound it is. Cause it's like, oh, the rose colored glasses reference, but it's like, wow, yeah, I've never really, that's the whole, that is actually, it puts it perfect. Now that you really say that right now, I'm taking a second moment to really look at it. And it does put it so perfectly. That's the point. Rose colored glasses, I don't know what that reference even comes from, but when you just think of like, if you're wearing rose colored glasses, red flags, the things that you would look out for, you literally can't see. Like,
exactly.
Wow, that's actually such a perfect line.
I remember hearing it for the first time. I was like, wow. And like and because I like am a fan of Bojack and I like sort of interact with Bojack stuff, it is a popular image quote of the show that is shared around as well.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to say about their breakup as well is that, and Bojack also says, he's like, well, it's like, I guess you finally just, learned who I was, really. And this goes back to like what I was saying earlier about them even getting together, was that he had to be with somebody that like didn't know anything about him, didn't know the perceptions of him, right? But the fact is that the perceptions of him are still actually close to kind of what he is. She could not have heard that he was an arrogant, fucking selfish narcissist or whatever, all these things. But the fact is that he kind of is an arrogant, selfish narcissist. Like, yeah. And that like that ended up being somewhat of a downfall. And the fact that she didn't know about those things. Yeah, she couldn't see those red flags. Like,
and we also see a bit of this. She's not wrong in saying that Diane's a bad influence on Bojack, and Bojack can be a bad influence on Diane sometimes.
Yeah, they just feed into each other, where she's like, yeah, let's just watch Horseman around me. And he's like, yeah, sure, I don't want to deal with this stuff on the difficulties of my job right now, so I'm just going to shirk them. And it's understandable like that he's like, wow, the new director's taking it in a whole different direction, and he's turning like what was going to be a profound movie into a fucking hot piece of garbage.
Yeah.
In his mind is what he thought. Now that's what Bojack thought it would be, but it's really that
it was a misunderstanding.
It was kind of a misunderstanding, and the fact that what we'll find out later, I'm just going to say, is that they were making a movie that would sell well. Yeah, not necessarily the deep, like kind of movie that Bojack wanted to make, but they were going to make a movie that would be good.
Yeah,
and that's what that director was doing. He was an acclaimed director. Kelsey was not making the movie. She was making the movie that Bojack also wanted to make.
Yeah.
But this new guy's like, no, we're going to make a movie that everybody's going to like.
We're going to make the movie the studio wants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And but unfortunately for Bojack, who's trying to give that kind of performance to Secretariat because he means so much to him, that movie's not, it seems like hot garbage to him. He's like, this seems like some fucking bullshit fan service movie. But this Hollywood culture commentary, sometimes that's the movie we get, though. We get the movie that we as the audience are going to like, and not necessarily what the actor wants to make the deep, amazing role on. So
yeah, but all of this sort of drama and stuff of the Diane in his life breaking up with Wanda, the movie not going the way he wants it to be. Bojack is inspired to take a break from his Hollywood life and try to reach out to his old friend Charlotte the Doe, and we see episode 11, Escape from LA.
Yeah.
I mentioned before, penultimate episodes tend to be where they can be like a format change from the season as a whole. They can have significant events happening, and this is definitely one of them.
Oh, one thing don't want to understate is that he totally left Todd hanging. Todd basically joins this improv cult and stuff, but it's so that he can feel like a belonging and feel significant. And he even makes it clear he goes to Bojack, and I kind of felt like I was like, wow, man. Like, it's like I knew Bojack wouldn't, like follow through on it. Like, we kind of felt that, but it's still because we're seeing what Todd's got going on. Like, from the outside, it's like, Todd, you joined some dumbass improv cult thing, but he basically says, he's like, yeah, hey, this is really important, Bojack. Like, I'm graduating from this thing, and I really like you to be there. And it's like they put it to him. They're like, if he really cares about you, won't he show up to this graduation? It's an important deal.
Yeah.
And again, it's just Bojack is too selfish to see it, but it was a big deal, and he wasn't there, and he lets him down. So he lets him join a cult, basically.
Yeah. That's but episode 11, Escape from LA. While taking a break from his Hollywood life, Bojack heads to Tesk, New Mexico to visit his old friend Charlotte for a few months, where he discovers that she has a family.
Tescanu, right?
It's Tesk. That's how it's spelled. Tescanu.
What the fuck is it? Oh, Tescanu. Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. Whatever. Yeah.
And we get it doesn't go any deeper into the plot here. It does say Olivia Wilde voices Charlotte, which I did not recognize. Ed Helms as Kyle, Charlotte's husband.
Oh my God.
And,
I didn't realize that either.
And Alana Glazer as Penny, who I know her. She's in that show Broad City. I haven't seen it, but she's like, she's notable.
She's one of the two people the girls in Broad City?
Yeah.
Which one?
That one.
Oh, Alana. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
They're both hilarious. That show is actually.
I've heard it's good. I've heard. Yeah. I've also haven't seen Workaholics, and I think both of those shows get a lot of acclaim.
They're both like in a similar kind of thing, except Workaholics is a little more ridiculous, and Broad City's almost, it's just like a perfect comedic like comic commentary on like being a female in New York. I don't know, like on what they are.
Yeah, but so this episode, I mean, Bojack just sort of lives with this family for like a while, and it's kind of weird. Like for like 2 months, he goes off and lives with these people, and they just sort of accept this guy into their home, and Bojack just you can tell he just really wishes that this was the life that he chose, not the life in Hollywood that he lived, and he's trying to basically make up for that, and he ends up taking Penny to her prom, and
which already seemed like weird, but like the way he was approaching it never seemed weird, right?
Yeah.
Like in the episode, it's not like he was like, "Ooh, I'll take you to prom" or something like that. It didn't seem like sleazy or strange. He was like, "Oh, well, yeah, I'll go there and like we'll show that guy up and and blah blah blah." Like he's like, he genuinely seems like he's trying to help.
It's the kind of thing that Bojack. It's the kind of thing that the character in Horseman Around would have done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he goes and he ends up kind of fucking up, like getting one of the kids drunk and like getting them in a hot spot and like kind of being like a creep and doing the wrong things.
But it's like, it's exactly like he is like literally doing the wrong thing, but like what he's like trying to do is not, it just all seems like it's coming from like a good place, but he's like a fucking 50-year-old degenerate.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, sure. Here, if you're going to drink some liquor, drink this liquor, like, and basically gives these kids as much liquor as they want.
And ends up with one of them needing to go to the hospital. And
yeah.
And then Penny like sort of comes on to him, and he at first says no.
He rebuffs her multiple times.
Yeah.
Like he definitely is like, no, this is not okay. Like definitely not. Like, but keeps setting her up like to do it. Like, and literally like does like a weird romantic, like it's not too romantic, but he does like kind of a special thing, not for her, but yeah, like kind of, he does this stuff that's like, what else did you think was going to happen? Like, you're definitely like doing things that, like that seem like they're okay, but like they're naive and that you don't understand what they're going to do.
But he rebuffs her and he turns her down. And then he goes and he has basically a conversation with Charlotte, and he kind of tries to like see if he can make something happen with Charlotte. 'Cause that's who he has long had this like sort of like crush wish that he had pursued her. We saw in the previous season that he has this dream sequence of having a child with Charlotte.
Yeah, like she is the ideal. Like again, it's just a choice that like he went
the
and
one
did
that
this.
the one that got away in a way.
Yeah,
but she's like, no, I love my family. Like if you wanted this, then you missed your chance, dude. And she just sort of leaves it at that at first, and then she goes I think she hears a noise or something and goes to check on Bojack and finds that Bojack has lured her.
That's not quite true. So because I just watched the episode.
Yeah, Penny goes to
basically
Bojack.
like, yeah, he is like rebuffed and she's like, hey, no, it's not okay. And you're going to need to go. Like she basically says like, hey, you need to go. Like, this isn't okay or whatever. And he's like, okay, fine. Like, and he goes to stay in his boat and Penny comes back to come onto him again. And he rebuffs her again. Like he straight up is like, no, that's not okay. But he turned like, but this time, like when Penny comes on him, she straight up is like, I'm not drunk. I'm of the consensual age. Like there's nothing wrong with this. And I think at this point, like he rebuffs her, but he like, it like shows him, he basically walks into his boat. Like he's like, no, we can't do this. And he walks into his boat, but like leaves the door open.
Yeah.
So it's like, he kind of like, he says no, like, but like he doesn't like, I think he kind of just allows it. Cause he's like, I don't care anymore. Like if I can't have this one, it's sort of just like, whatever.
But Charlotte comes in, sees them about to undress each other, and she's pissed and she wants him gone immediately. And if she ever fucking sees him again, she's gonna kill him.
Yeah, exactly. And he's just like, fuck. And so he drives his fucking, meanwhile, hey, he's living in a fucking boat the whole time. Yeah. His pretense to come to New Mexico was for a boat show, even though it's a landlocked, and Penny even points out, she's like, why did you come to a landlocked state for a boat show? Like, and he's like, because it's here. Like,
and the boat's name is Escape from LA.
Yeah.
That's the name of the episode. But so he leaves New Mexico kind of ashamed for what he did. And this is an act that will sort of haunt him. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And it was definitely just like, again, it's him trying to live out the life that he kind of wanted, but realizing it again, having it faced for him. It's like, it is too late. You did fuck this, like this, you don't have this choice anymore. And it's like, the point is like escape from LA, escaping from that life that he kind of lived. But the fact was, it's like when he tried to go, force that other life, it just couldn't be. And if anything, he actually like any wholesomeness about what that was is now ruined too. So now it's like the escape from LA is like, you're going back to LA.
Yeah. All right. Episode 12, Out to Sea. Returning to Hollywood, Bojack learns from Princess Carolyn that the Secretariat film was finished without him when Lenny Turtletile replaces the real Bojack with a CGI version. He manages to make enough money for the establishment of the Bojack Horseman orphanage as part of a promise he made at Herb Kazaz's funeral, which he later renames the Herb Kazaz orphanage.
Yeah. By the end of the episode, he renames it after Herb Kazaz, but yeah.
But he has a typo in the name, and it's now the Jerb Kazaz.
Yeah, Jerb Kazaz. And this is another one where where Bojack's like, how could you not realize that was a fucking typo? And they're just like, well, whatever. And
it's Ricky Gervais too. Is like, well, we've already made the plaque. It was expensive. The kids have the shirts. I think it's gonna be Jerb now. Sorry.
Yeah, I think we're gonna go with what the shirts say. Like. And I thought that was actually the funniest way for him to say it too. I think we'll just go with what the shirts say.
Yeah.
But what I think is more significant here are essentially the Diane and more importantly, the Todd of this episode.
I didn't finish reading. So Princess Carolyn and Rutabaga Rabinowitz are close enough to opening their own agency, firm, which we see turns out Princess Carolyn opens it on her own because Rutabaga is not divorcing his wife, and she's beginning to realize that he's not really good for her, and he's sort of a little self-centered. And so she ends up making it her own agency firm. And after moving out of Bojack's house, Todd finds himself trapped in the improv comedy cult, which, as you were going to get into.
Yeah. I mean, and so in this, like, Bojack comes back. We have Diane, and there's literally this parallel where you're seeing Diane living her life, like literally like in the same screen as you're seeing
Mr. Peanut Butter.
Mr. Peanut Butter living his life, and how like she's watching him on TV and he's just kind of going about his life and everything's like cool or fine or whatever, but he's like Diane's just living this like little whatever of a life. And eventually you get to the point where the end of the last episode, Bojack he's like, hey, you're still here? And she's like, yeah. And it kind of just is like a recap of like, she's literally just been sitting around, like doing nothing for the last 2 months.
And one of the things we actually see is Mr. Peanut Butter say on his show, and Diane, if you're out there, I miss you. And it just sort of like eats at her more and makes her feel guilty. Mm-hmm. And this sort of comes to a head when
hilariously Diane is eating at a restaurant and Mr. Peanut Butter comes in, sees her from across the room, calls her on the cell phone, and then basically says, hey, Diane, hope you're doing okay. Do you know where the batteries are? Like, it's literally like, again, the most simple conversation. Like, you know where the batteries are? Okay, well, I still can't, like, she's like, it's in the drunk drawer. He's like, well, I still can't find them. I think you should come back. And so you can help me find where the batteries are. And Diane thinks that it's him, like, seeing that she's there and, like, giving her a way to come back, like, without her feeling bad or, like, a failure. Yeah. Which is what she's felt like.
And so she says, if I leave right now, I can make it home tonight.
Yeah. And he's like, well, that'd be great. Awesome. And you won't believe this, but there's someone in this restaurant that looks just like you. And I'm just like, oh my God, that made me smile. It made me like, it didn't make me laugh out loud, but it definitely made me like, my God, like I was very pleased at that being what it was. I don't know. It's just, it makes me almost laugh now, but it's a perfect moment where his innocence knows no bounds.
And I believe in the same scene, we get Diane sort of taking on her new job, which is basically going to be like a PR person for this teen pop star, Sextina Aquafina, who you actually see in the first season very minorly, but she'll play a little bit more of a role next season, voiced by Aisha Tyler.
Yeah, and she is specifically, I mean, because I literally just watched this episode today, but she's the Twitter handler, like she's the Twitter media person for Princess Carolyn's job, and that's Princess Carolyn was like, hey, get off your fucking ass, you're gonna fucking work for my agency and you're gonna be the media, and she's like, I'm a ghostwriter, I don't know how to do that. It's like, that's literally what you do, like you just manage people's things for them.
Yeah, something we haven't really gotten into too much is how Princess Carolyn has a need to take care of people. And that's why she's kind of always liked taking care of Bojack. But in this situation, she's also taking care of Diane. She sometimes helps take care of Todd. She helps take care of Mr. Peanut Butter. She has a very big maternal instincts.
Yeah, in this season, she took care of Mr. Peanut. She was like, hey, when he didn't have an agent, his agent died. So she was like, hey, I will help you get something. And she's the one that gets him into the TV show, which, that's an interesting thing. She doesn't seem very appreciated for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to continue to be a theme, and maybe it will be, but now that you're you point the maternal helping other people out, I see that, and I definitely see how it is very underappreciated. In fact, that whole episode where it was her birthday.
Yeah, and she spent the whole episode trying to help Bojack.
Yeah, interesting.
Only for him to not even to just basically cancel out all the effort she put into it.
Yeah, I might keep that in mind, maybe just see if that continues being a thing going forward. But okay, so I'm like, actually my favorite part of the episode, Todd, yeah, and so basically Bojack realizes Todd does come back, or he sees him at another point before he goes on this cruise.
He goes to pack up his stuff to go on the cruise, and finds Bojack has returned, and Bojack at this point remembers that he had the improv thing, and Todd says, "You weren't there."
Yeah. And Todd relates like the story of like the first time he came to stay there, and tells him, he was like, you remember how,
I made you so many pancakes
that you like were mad at me for making you too many pancakes, and then you tried to chase me, but you got too tired. So you fell asleep. And when you woke up, you were like, get out of here. And I was like, and I told you, thanks for staying at my place, or thanks for letting me stay here. And you were like, get out. And he's like, well, you got what you wanted. I'm leaving. And it's kind of like and he's like, oh, all right. Like he lets him go. But
because he's dealing with other stuff at this point.
But Bojack comes back and
using his boat.
Yes, using his boat. He literally goes to save Todd, because Todd is actually legit, like basically trapped on this boat now. But like he realizes that the guy that runs all of it is basically, he's a sham. Like he's literally like super rich. and he doesn't live in some like barren improv state.
He's basically funneling money from these people. He's a cult leader.
Yeah, he's a cult leader. Yeah, he's just funneling money from these people so that he literally has his own cruise line. And yeah,
remember everybody, improv is a cult.
Improv is a cult, and cats are evil. So,
not Princess Carolyn though.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know how this show turns out. So,
yeah, I was about to say the other major cat in this show is the police officer. I'm like, are you really going to say that cops are bad? But that's a complicated topic to get into.
Indeed. But so he goes there and saves Todd by like literally, and again, one of those moments where I'm just like, where I like Bojack, where they're literally on the improv boat, like they're improv fighting. They hold up improv guns and they try to get into he's like, I have an improv flamethrower, and they're like, we have SPF 1,000,000 that's flame resistant, which is just, it's kind of funny. But then I just love Bojack being, are you guys fucking serious right now? Like, is this real? He's like, okay, I guess I have a guard killing machine. Beep boop beep.
Wait,
boop.
I have a wife and children. I mean, they're improvised, but they're real to me.
Yeah, and this is where some of this humor actually is really landing. Like, it's so ridiculous, but it's set it up so well that like these improv people are so into it. But the biggest thing is that when the cat guy, Copernicus, whatever his name is, tries to say, Todd, this is the guy that didn't show up to your improv, and he really doesn't like you and all this stuff.
And Bojack in this moment basically does he gets heartfelt.
Yeah, he gets heartfelt, and he tells him what the real story, or I don't know if it's real or if he's remembered. Even Copernicus says, that was an improv, like, I'm impressed. But he tells him, I do remember what happened that morning, and it wasn't pancakes, it was hash browns. And he says, hash browns. And he says, I ate so many hash browns that I threw up in the pool, and then you threw up in my pool, and then you said, I'll clean it up. And he's like, did I clean it up? No, I had to call the pool guy. and he's like, but I remember you said, thanks for letting me stay here. And I remember that was the first time I ever felt like, good about myself. And that's why I liked having you around. You were someone that made me feel good about myself, Todd. And that's why I need you or whatever. And he like, really, I was like,
and he says Todd is his best friend, which honestly is at this point. Yeah, it's true.
It's true. Yeah. And it's what Todd's always wanted. Todd's literally been like, oh, we're best buddies.
He just wanted Bojack to say something nice to him.
Yeah, he just wanted to be recognized that like Bojack did care about him. And that him showing up to the improv thing was supposed to be the moment where he could show he cared, but he didn't show up. And so it was like, Bojack doesn't care about me. He really doesn't. Like, again, that childlike innocence that he has where he just thought Bojack was like kind of a dick, but they were really friends. And that was supposed to be the moment for him to prove it. And he didn't, but he came back in this moment where it mattered and was like, I do care about you. You are my friend.
Yeah.
So, and we see Bojack being like that guy. He came and did it.
Other loose ends. I think we covered the fact that Princess Carolyn decides to open the firm on her own. Also, as they are leaving their former agency, the head of the agency, Mr. Witherspoon, it dies.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So, yikes, sad. But that happens, and Rutabaga, and so they basically burn the bridge by leaving right when they're in a crisis of management.
Yeah,
but she stands up for herself, dumps Rutabaga, and is able to stand on her own. Diane comes back home. Mr. Peanut Butter still has the job. Bojack's movie is being released. We didn't really talk about that, but Secretariat got filmed and they replaced all of his acting with CGI. So it's not his movie anymore, but he still is going to have to go on this basically campaign for the release of the film. Like any actor does, you need to promote your movie. You need to go be a talking head and go to the interviews, the junkets, the premieres and stuff. And so that's going to be the driving force of the next season.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And again, kind of that Hollywood commentary where they're like, literally the CGI was so good. We replaced all of you in it. And now it's like, this is almost an Oscar-worthy movie because we literally took you out of it and we put a fake you in it and just made it say, and it just is like, so you're saying that they made a fake movie using his face and now it's Oscar-worthy.
Yeah.
Whereas like they could have made probably a really deep, good soulful movie, but they're like, nope, give the audience what they want and this will win an Oscar.
But I think the even bigger takeaway here is that Bojack's dream was to be in this movie, to be Secretariat. And now the movie is real and it's going to come out, and it's not even him.
Yeah.
Like, he gets his dream, but it's basically dashed in this way. And it's, and you kind of really feel for him there.
Yeah. But it's like, like all the things that he suffers in LA, this is one of the things he wanted, and they had to like corrupt it.
Yeah.
Like, to say like, you're in it, but it's not really you. Like, we didn't use any of you because that wasn't good enough.
But in a way, it's kind of all his fault. Like, he made the decision that, I mean, Kelsey technically made the decision, but he actively convinced Kelsey to go do the thing that got her fired. And then he made a bad impression with the new director that caused the bad blood to occur. And then he's the one that left for 2 months, abandoning, like, an entire production's worth of people were working on this movie, and he abandoned all of them because he was feeling some sort of way. So he deserved to be cut out of the movie, quite frankly, but you still feel bad for him.
Yeah. I mean, because understandably, like, all those decisions he made, like, he was trying to make what, again, like, this is one of the things I like about Bojack, is that, like, I feel like he sometimes seems like the guy of, like, the voice of common sense. Sometimes, I mean, not common sense, but he seems like a voice of reason. He seems like he's more like, but him wanting to make that shot seemed like a genuine thing to do, right? You'd think if we were watching some kind of like a regular movie, you'd think that it ends up all good in the end. They're like, you know what? That shot was great, and we will include it in the movie, right? That's like the hopeful, we think things turn out okay kind of way of thinking. And it was like, no, in Hollywood, that's not how it goes. Q for doing that. She's fired. We're getting this guy in here, and we're doing that scene anyways. And that was just Bojack trying to be genuine, trying to put in the heartfelt part of the movie. Him making bad impression with that guy was that he truly felt like his perception was that, and he's being a dick about it, but his perception was like, hey, we're making a piece of garbage. And he literally, like, it was a turn of phrase. He's the fish
like,
said something stupid.
We're not making The Godfather or something. We're not making Citizen Kane.
Casablanca.
Yeah,
we're not making Casablanca here. And so he was, I mean, obviously, like, assuming that, okay, we're on the same page here. Hey, we're just making this film, and we both know it's not very good. And says something, like, kind of stupid, but like under the pretense that guy understood that already. Wouldn't have said that otherwise. Just thought he was being genuine. And the guy's like, no, I'm just a literal idiot. Like, when I say literal idiot, I mean like an idiot that's too literal.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're just not making this film. Like, that was
we're literally not making the film Casablanca. We're making this film, but I still am a serious director, and you're basically disrespecting me.
Yeah. And then he started making it hard for Bojack. He literally made it like he was making it hell. He's like, oh, we're just gonna keep doing reshoots over and over again to straight up fuck with Bojack. So him leaving, being like, I can't take this anymore. I don't want to deal with it anymore. It's not like I'm just like doing a job, like a movie I don't like want to do anymore. Now I'm being punished because I can't do the movie I don't want to do. And so him leaving was like maybe not the best way to handle it. He should have been like, make his agent or lawyers be like, no, you can't keep doing this. You better keep like on track or whatever. There's a better way to actually handle it.
Yeah, he did not handle it maturely at all. But yeah, you sort of get the feel for him. But so at the episode ends with Bojack going for a run because he's told by the Oscar whisperer Anna Spanakopita or something, Spanakopita, voiced by Angela Bassett, that he needs to get in shape so that he can look better on red carpets and all that stuff going forward. And so we end the episode with him running up the hill of his house because he's like parked on his house is like on like a steep hill in the Hollywood Hills. And so he's running up and he sort of like collapses on the ground because the running's so difficult. And he's like, I can't breathe. This is awful. And this jogging baboon character
who's been in almost every episode, like almost every time you see his house, it's the baboon jogs by.
Yeah. And he comes up and he says to him, it gets better. And he's like, what? It gets better. You have to do it every day.
And that's the hard part.
But it does get better.
And I love that line. Like, that was like, maybe that's not like a really interesting or like a line that's unique, but it was profound for that moment and just in general. Like, that is such it gets better. You just have to keep doing it. You just have to keep it gets better. You just have to keep doing it. And that's the hard part, but it does get better. And that is like the best advice. I literally would like want everybody to understand that things will get better if you keep working at it. The hard part is to keep working at it, but it will get better.
Honestly, sometimes when I'm like wanting to like keep up like my like jogging that I've been doing this year, I literally think back to this guy. I'm like, it gets easier, or it gets easy. It may actually be it gets easier. You got to do it every day. That's the hard part, but it does get easier.
Yeah. Either way, same sentiment.
And so that comes into my mind sometimes when I want to keep up on doing something. I'm like, you know what? It is easier today than it used to be. And because it's true, it's a true statement. Each time you successfully do something, it gets a little bit easier. It's just keeping it up that's hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I thought that was a great and profound way to leave the season, especially from the baboon we've seen every day. And in the beginning of the season, this actually brings it all back around.
I think he just shows up in season 1.
I don't know if he's in. I can't remember whether he's in season 1 or not. But the beginning of this season,
yeah, he definitely.
Him and Bojack are running alongside each other, and Bojack was already having a hard time with the running, and he was getting in shape for the Secretariat movie.
Because this was when he was doing the self-help tape. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that baboon was there running alongside him too. I think he might have interacted with the baboon a little bit as well. But for it to come back to he started the season with this little run and how difficult it was, and he was pushing through it in a non-genuine way, not being himself. We see some of all these things happen to him that from him being genuine and being himself, that was how he was going to make the best movie. But him being genuine also ruined it in some ways, ruined it for himself. But coming to the end of the season where now it's all right, we need you to shape up again to get ready for this, what's going to go for. And just, I don't know. It's a weird coming back to the beginning sort of thing. But I just thought that was how the Lily season's left off. It gets easier. You just got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. But it does get easier.
Yeah. So, and that's our recap of the season. And so I just want to sort of cap off by talking about what happens to our 5 main characters throughout the season. Just do the brief synopsis of what their arcs are going, where their stories are going so far. Princess Carolyn, I feel like we talked about the least because her story is a little more in the background. She's a little bit more supporting still. But we basically go from her dating an actual child man to dating a man who's cheating on his wife to, and at both of these times, working for this big agency where she doesn't feel like she's acting on her own and that she wants more responsibility, and she ends up opening her own agency firm, and she's not with anybody at the end of the season, but that just means she can focus on herself. And so we have some hope for Princess Carolyn going forward that she's going to continue to do good work. Todd, we see him making Disneyland and doing the improv thing, and it's just him trying to find some aim, we get a lot more of him and Mr. Peanut Butter, which I think in general, I like their dynamic, the working for the PB Living thing. And it doesn't go well. The PB Living goes bankrupt in the middle of the season, but Todd's doing his thing. He's still around. And like you said, the dynamic with him and Bojack at the end of the season is actually really sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. Todd, I don't know that he has I can't see that he has much of an arc.
At this point, not really. No,
I do the way I look at Princess Carolyn's is that she starts where she's kind of in a relationship with this not real man kind of thing, and she's questioning what her role or what she's really doing. And she moves through the season with having that portrait realization kind of thing, and Rabidowitz, let's go do our own thing, and really comes out of it being hey, I keep looking at all these things I think I need, but really I don't need anything. I just need myself, and I want to do my work. And she ends up with her own business that she started by herself, not with the man now. And I think that's a good place for her to start, being with a little man child, not feeling fulfilled, to coming to a place where she's I'm not with anybody and I'm starting my own thing, and seeing how she moves forward from there. So I kind of like how she turns out.
And then Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter, we can sort of more tangle into each other because the first half of the season, we are getting more of their married life, and Mr. Peanut Butter's having the career struggles, and Diane's not really sure what to do with her career post writing Bojack's autobiography, and she's thinking maybe she wants to go do the serious stuff with Sebastian St. Clair, and she's basically forced into doing it because she feels like because of the issue with Hank the hippopotamus. I can't remember.
Hippopotamus.
Yes, but he's a hippopotamus.
He is a hippopotamus.
Yes. So it's that struggle between their professional lives that causes their personal lives to have an issue that she ends up leaving, and then coming back and feeling that she has to hide that from Mr. Peanut Butter, while Mr. Peanut Butter's doing again pretty well with his career. He has the new game show and stuff, but he ends up missing Diane, and at the end of the season they're able to come back together, and we'll see how their relationship goes going forward. And then we get Bojack, who starts the season like wanting to be really happy and really positive because his life is going in a good direction. He's making Secretariat, the movie that he's always dreamed, and things just don't really go his way. And some of that's his fault, some of that's not his fault. But yeah, he ends the season not really like, kind of like a bittersweet moment. His movie's being made, but it's not what he wanted it to be. But he has to work and he has to move forward. And it gets easier, but he has to put in the work.
Yeah. And I think something about like Bojack's kind of like arc here, I really see it as being how he starts out thinking that he needs to be some kind of better, not real version of himself. And then like very quickly is like, hey, I need to be myself to really do this movie and make this movie. Moves through a process where he's like, I'm trying to be myself authentically, to make the movie, and like coming to the point where like, he's like, we need to make this shot. And that like literally gets him chastised for it. It's like, no, we're making this movie anyways. You need to be yourself just enough to like do what we want you to, but not like enough to actually do what you want here.
Yeah.
And that like makes him realize how much he hates what he wants and like tries to flee from it, tries to avoid it, not only by avoiding doing work, but literally from leaving. And then we end up having him come back, and his, in the end, it was like, hey, we took out everything that was genuine about you here. And it's like, it's almost like you can still get the praise and the acclaim, but like you trying to embrace yourself here was not what anybody really wanted. And so now it's like, we're going to give you praise and acclaim for not, you. And it's, I don't know, it's a strange place to leave off. Like, this isn't like, like the end of the last season was actually like good. It kind of like ended like Bojack brought him back into good spirits. And this one kind of like leaves him in a place where it's like, I don't know exactly how it moves forward. In like, it's not a great place to be. Like he might be having, the awards thing going forward, but it's, I think I don't know what the next season entails, but I feel like that's going to be something that like sticks with him, where it's like, I'm going to be promoting something that's not even really me, which might bring him like a surface level amount of like, yeah, my movie's about to get an Oscar. Ha ha ha. Like it might make him somewhat happy, but he's probably not going to be very happy with that overall.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested to, like this is going to be an interesting one going into the next season, because it's not very again, because it ends like that. But I really just can't get over realizing the profoundness of that last statement. That truly was the best way to end it off.
I agree. So I asked you this last episode, who's your favorite character? Is it Peanut Butter? Is it Bojack still?
It's still Bojack. He's still it's basically nothing has changed about the order. Except maybe Princess Carolyn, like through this conversation. I don't know that before having this podcast conversation, Princess Carolyn has gone above Diane for me now. So now it's still Bojack, Mr. Peanut Butter, Todd. So
before you dislike the characters Diane and Carolyn, do you still dislike them?
I do. Again, through this conversation has made me appreciate Princess Carolyn a little more, but I still don't like. I mean, Diane has her place in the show, but I wouldn't say I've grown to like her anymore. Or, have any more thing for her. Mr. Peanut Butter still remains being he just is what he is, and he brings actually a little bit of joy. I find Todd to be. I still kind of like him more, but like I haven't seen him fulfill so much greater purpose to the show. Yeah. But it's just something like actually I have to say through this talk, actually I think Princess Carolyn has become above Todd now.
And as a person whose favorite character is Princess Carolyn, I appreciate that. And I'd say I think some of her better episodes are yet to come.
I think there's talk like realizing kind of that she had a more interesting story, and whereas like Todd like is amusing in some ways, but I don't know that he's added a lot to the season.
He doesn't get too much depth yet. Yeah,
but
I think next season is a big one for a lot of characters.
Yes.
I again, I don't want to keep putting the next season on a pedestal, but it's good television, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So Yeah, but it's, Bojack's still number one. I still find his journey to be more almost like, I almost like that this season didn't end in some like clearly it was all good way. It just presents more opportunity for what we're moving into. So yeah. But I don't know. I guess that pretty much wraps it up here, right?
I'd say so.
Well, until next time, folks, I've been Robert.
And I've been Ryan.
And just remember, it gets easier.
You got to do it every day.
But it does get easier.
Thank you for listening.
Have a good one, folks.